Welcome back to Indy Ball Nation. It is once again a report card day. A lot of that going on right now. End of the first quarter, got to get everything out. Now, we've done the Atlantic League, we've done the Frontier League. You might think we're doing American Association next, but no, I got another video I'm working on for the Americans, so I'm giving it another day or two until I do this report card for them. We're talking Pioneer League today. I hope that's all right with you. Hope our location's all right with you. Didn't want to take up the office. It's a beautiful day. It's sort of quintessential Pennsylvania weather. We're between a week of rain and a week of it being 98 degrees. So taking advantage of it before I mow the lawn here today and get disgustingly sweaty. And speaking of disgustingly sweaty, it is giving the vibe of like one of those days where your teacher's like, it's nice out. Why not? We'll go outside. And then 30 minutes later, you have a classroom full of sweaty middle schoolers, and you're like, no amount of Febreze will fix this. A huge mistake has been made. Where were we? Let's talk report cards. I've done alphabetical. I've done sort by division. There's no divisions in the Pioneer League. Could do alphabetical again, but no. We're going to just end on positives. So we're going to start with some negatives here. Bracing myself, because we need to talk about the Great Falls Voyagers. This is a parent-teacher conference at this point, right? They're 3-24. They're 16 games out of the division lead. So far, here's what they've been up to. They dropped 4 of 6 on the road against Glacier. They got swept at home in back-to-back 6-game series with Boise and Missoula. Got swept in a 3-game series at Ogden. Then they snapped their 16-game losing streak against Missoula, of all teams, but then still lost 2 of 3 in that one. And then they just lost 3 in a row to start the week against Boise. Yikes. Roman Kuntz has been really good. He's got like 9 homers. Wyatt Cameron, he's an interesting signing like 10 days ago. He's in the bullpen. Areas for improvement. I mean, offensively, they're in the bottom of the league in caught stealing, in strikeouts, in average, in on base, and slugging. On the pitching side, I'm just looking runs per game, hits per 9, home runs per 9 stand out as like really troubling in a sea of troubling stuff. I mean, final thoughts here. I mean, the team is awful. I hate to. I rarely say things like that. Like, you know me. Try not to do it. But the team's bad. So far, they're worse than NOCO. Not sure how we're doing that. There's got to be major issues behind the scenes here. I don't have the details on it. I'm curious to hear more at some point, because this is like the worst constructed and performing Pioneer League team that I've seen in the Indy Ball era. Yeah, NOCO has flaws, but they have extenuating circumstances. So the grade's an F. I hate to do it, but it's an F. I rarely give Fs in the first quarter. Here we are. Got a little shadow going on my face, too, for those of you on video right now. Tough scene. Gonna let it ride, though. Hold on. Oh, slight adjustment. Not helping. Not helping. Haha, not editing any of it out. I don't care. Northern Colorado. On cue. You've been mentioned, now you've been summoned. They're 5-21. They're 13.5 games back. None of that's unexpected, if we're honest. They dropped 10 of 11 to Rocky Mountain to start the year. Then they lost 4 of 6 to Billings. They lost 5 of 6 to Grand Junction. They just split a doubleheader with Yuba, optimistic, and then lost badly last night by 2 touchdowns. Quint Landis has been delivering. We'll go that way. He's striking out only 4 times in his first 85 plate appearances. Don't have the numbers from last night, but walked 21 times to those 4 strikeouts. Pretty crazy. That's good for a 367, 553, 450 slash line to start the year. Others in the rotation, shout out to Johan Castillo, who has been eating up innings on the mound. That's been big. Others in the bullpen, Adam Weibert, he's been fantastic in his time in the bullpen so far after signing at the end of May. Elaine Lopez, Ryan Velasquez, they've had some good outings here and there as well. In the lineup, I'll bounce back to Evan Slay, Kai Moody. They're enjoying good starts to the year. They've got to improve just about everything on both sides of the ball. I don't think it's the priority. Obviously, NOCO has a lot going on here. The data says that this is a team that's worse than Great Falls, but they found a way to win more. So, how about that? And at least their failures are expected. So, for a deep dive on into how this whole mess came about, I did a 2.5-hour long deep dive with my buddy Andrew. That's on the channel. Go check that out. I'm not going to rehash it all here. Right, we'll get back to it. It's an F for an organization, but I'll bump it to a D- for the team since they're doing what they can in these trying and unprecedented times. Next up, we got the Glacier Range Riders. They're 11-16. They're 8 games back. They started the season winning 4 of 6 against Great Falls. They split 6 in Missoula. They lost 5 of 6 against Oakland and 4 of 6 in Yuba City. They lost 2 of 3 then again in Oakland this week, so wheels have fallen off pretty badly. So they've lost 11 out of 15 after a 7-5 start. that should kind of paint the picture. The pitching's actually been pretty good. They're giving up the long ball, but they're keeping guys off base, which means they're not really getting burned by the long ball super bad. Having a solid collection of strikeout guys is definitely helping that work. Scoring the fewest runs per game in the league is not ideal. They're just generally not getting hits. They're generally not getting on base, so that will result in not scoring runs. Top performers in the league, though, they got like Luke Cooper, who's really impressed me out of the bullpen despite some control problems. He's up toward the top of the league and some things. Grant Taylor, Rain Supple, they're doing a passable to good job, I'd say, in the rotation by staying out of big trouble for the most part. Luke Schaefer and Jason Franks are two guys with good strikeout stuff, I've noticed, but they're getting hit too much for them to really be like the reliable headline type guys right now. Ty Bothwell, he's looked fantastically in the rotation. There are a lot of other solid bullpen options here. I'd say almost everyone out there on a given day is, capable at worst. Looking back to the lineup, if it's going to improve, it's going to be around guys like Kingston Liniak, Logan Beard, Angel Mendoza. So I guess my final thoughts on this one, despite some building blocks, this team is way behind where they need to be right now in the standings. It doesn't help that they haven't seen NOCO or Rocky Mountain. The team's 29-45 since their 29-19 first half last year. So it's a longer sort of term struggle that we're looking in on. I do think they'll improve. But for now, we grade what we got, you know what I mean? And it's a C- to me. Heading to Grand Junction. Grand Junction is 10-16. They're 8.5 games back. They lost 5 of 6 to Yuba Sutter. Then they lost 4 of 6 to Oakland and lost 5 to Idaho Falls. I believe that was a 6-game set with a rain out in the middle of it. They won 5 of 6, though, against NOCO. They'll bounce back against a bad team, and they took 2 of their first 3 in their current series of the Rocky Mountains, so a bit of life here. Offensively, they're at least working counts and drawing walks, though it really hasn't translated to numbers of runs much, so we'll keep an eye on that, see if it starts coming through. Preston Shelton, Spence Kaufman, Diego Aragon, and Christian Castaneda have all been good pickups. Frank Gonzalez is a dog, man. He's working. He's building a roster as he goes. Zeb Roos is 518 on base, is top 10 in the league, and he's leading the league with 17 steals. So once he gets on, he's a problem, and he's getting on a lot. Zach Zabrowski, Brock Gillis, they both hold ERAs down around 4. Zabrowski's also averaging more than 5 innings pitched per outing, so that's been huge. One of the best whips of all starters in the league. Shout out to him for that one. Looking at the rest of the rotation, Riley Egloff, he is interesting. 23 Ks, 1 walk in 22 2/3 innings. If he can start missing some bats, golden. He might be really valuable. But right now, yeah, he's not walking guys and striking guys out, but he's also getting hit. Less ideal. Looking back to the lineup, Evan Scavoto, Mason Minzy, they've been hitting well. They need to find more pop in the lineup. Recent additions should help that. Pitching in Grand Junction is never easy, and this is common sense, but the team needs to start missing bats to keep the ball out of the air, yada yada. It's same thing for basically everybody, especially higher elevation teams here. My final thoughts, I'm, again, genuinely impressed with the team's work signing players. Frank Gonzalez, that's him for you. The start has not been good, but I think this team has a chance to compete in the second half. After early struggles, they've definitely been building and, getting pieces in place. So I think Gonzalez knows what he needs to do. What's going to take to bounce back from their weird start here and build for the second half. And I think keep an eye on them. The grade so far with a little bit of that bounce back is a C-. Let's talk about the Billings Mustangs. 12-15 start to the year. 7 games back. Let's take a look at the results. 4 of 6, they lost to Missoula. Then they lost 4 of 6 in Idaho Falls. Then they won 4 of 6 against NOCO. They split a 6-game set with Rocky Mountain. Now they've lost 2 of 3 to Missoula this week. They're definitely fun to watch. They're stealing bases. They're collecting extra base hits. That's good. What's less fun to watch is the pitching. They're giving up lots of hits. They're walking batters. There's not much in the way of strikeout stuff to bail them out. It is definitely a grind on the pitching and defense side right now. I think the rotation can actually make something work. There's enough good happening that it can be salvaged as these guys settled in a little bit. In the bullpen, though, it's really rough. They need some help. That may rely on some college kids in free agency, which is a tough way to go about it, but it's been done. It's not an easy path to success, though, but we'll see what they do. They got time. Looking back to the lineup, we got Evan Berkey. He has been a great anchor in the lineup. O'Dowd has some real power at the plate. Combine them with Tyler Shellnut, AJ Shaver, Briley Knight. This has the makings of like a playoff caliber offense. Sick. Got to find some pitching. There's something here to build on for sure. They still have 24 games left against Great Falls and NOCO this season. That'll help. Billings is definitely still in it, but they need some upgrades. I'm giving them a C for the first quarter. Moving our way to Ogden. The Ogden Raptors, 14-13. They're 5 games back in the division. Here's how they got there. They split 6 games with Oakland. They dropped 4 out of 6 to Yuba Sutter. They split 6 with Boise. They swept a 3-game set with Great Falls, handled business. They got swept in 3 games by Oakland. That hurts. And then they won their first 3 of the week against Idaho Falls. That is big. Currently, they're bottom half of the league in all 3 slash categories and around league average in most pitching categories, I'll say. In the rotation, it's Roland Gutierrez, who has had 2 good starts after signing with the team. Chase Chapman's done a good job with an ERA around 5. Eli Elliott, Bryson Van Sickle need to keep guys off base if they want to join that level of the conversation with sort of Chapman there. In the bullpen, Nick Cardinal has been on a great start. He's just been a stud out of the pen. Justin Jones has been a good addition in his early appearances since joining the team. Who else did I see? Cam Edmondson. He shows signs of real potential from what I've seen. I'm also keeping an eye on Nico Saltaformaggio, not just because it's a great name, which it is a great name, but he's shown some flashes where I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. In the lineup, it's True Fontenot leading the lineup with a nice start to the year. Damian Stone might be one to watch, though he's on the IL right now. I believe he's on the IL. I saw he's on the IL. Final thoughts. The team is holding their own. They find themselves in a good, not great, but good position with a softer schedule ahead in the second half. I'm giving them a C+ here for their first quarter work. A nice little bounce back year after they won championship 2 years ago, kind of off the radar last year. Not that they were amazing 2 years ago, by the way. They kind of snuck in the playoffs and got done. Different conversation. Let's talk Boise Hawks. They're 16-11. They're just 3 games back in the division. They lost 5 of 6 to Idaho Falls to start the year. Woof. But then they swept 6 games with Great Falls. Split 6 with Ogden, split 6 more with Idaho Falls, and then they won their first 3 of the week in Great Falls, now having won 4 in a row, handling business against these bad teams. Offensively, the team is getting on base and getting hits at a healthy clip, we'll say. The power is lacking slightly, compared at least to the top of the league, but the lineup is applying pressure consistently, pushing runs across. The pitching is pretty much mid-pack, but that is serviceable when the offense is clicking like it has been, so we can work with it. The pitching feels vulnerable on the road. That's really kind of where some of the issues are here. As the breeze picks up, I believe it'll be fine. We're powering through. But they're making that pitching work, even though they're vulnerable on the road, because they have a pitcher-friendly home park. That's kind of making it up. I'm back. I'm focused. Rotation-wise, Brian Perez and Graham Edwards are pitching well. Edwards is a mid-season pickup, but Perez just hit the IL. We'll have to see what's going on there. Taylor Darden is crushing. Max John Goldberg is going off to the tune of 11 bombs. Most of the lineup is hanging out above league average from a production perspective. They're out here doing it, honestly. No notes on that front right now. They're beating up teams that they should be beating up. I need to see them getting a couple of games in hand against playoff contenders, those big meaningful games with 2-game swings where you win one, they lose one, obvious. But for now, giving them an optimistic B-. As we're getting a little more positive here, let's take a road trip out west, far west, not just Pioneer League West. Because we're talking about the Yuba Sutter High Wheelers. They're 17-10. They're 2 games back in the division. This is how they got there. They won 5 of 6 from Grand Junction. They took 4 of 6 from Ogden. They dropped 4 of 6 to Rocky Mountain, won 4 of 6 off of Glacier, and they won 2 of 3 this week against NOCO. Areas of success so far, the offense is underwhelming, but that is expected outside of the hitter-friendly environments that much of the league plays in, so we can breeze over it. The High Wheelers are playing with some aggressive base running, though, and a willingness to take some walks to make that work, so they're taking a different approach than most of the other teams in the league, and it's mixed results. Some games it looks really good, some days you're like, it's not really cooking for me. Also expected is just how strong this pitching staff has been. However, if they can't get more swings and misses, they're going to continue to have some trouble on the road. In the rotation, Brett Wozniak looks solid as he works to step into the role left by... Felt a bug. Don't think it landed on me. Drop in the comments if it landed on me. Let me know. Brandon McPherson got signed. Brett Wozniak, he's looking good. He's trying to step into that role. He's doing a serviceable job so far. It would be nice if he can keep that rolling. Cole Crescent, he is interesting if he can consistently throw strikes. Matt Cavanaugh, Christian Womble, Jaden Drake, they've all made spot starts with some mixed results. In the bullpen, Mason Bryan has done well in 10 appearances with just a 2.08 ERA. Keep an eye on that guy right there. In the lineup, Cuba Bess is a key leader for the offense. He's hanging out around the league's top 10 in on-base and slugging. Gio Brusa, Bobby Latta, River Orsak, and Josh Duarte have formed a really solid core of this lineup around Cuba Bess. Parker Kodu. Kodu is what I've been saying. I think it's right based on what I've been hearing on broadcast, but I could be just forgetting something. He's in that conversation as well, is my point. I would love to see his lineup sort of fully rounded out. It kind of does have a drop-off in the back three, but considering the run environment, this has been impressive work from them. Final thoughts. My thoughts right here are all about kind of how this team is going to handle Oakland further down the road and how this team adapts and keeps up with the current front runners who have somewhat easier schedules. So far, Yuba Sutter's off to a good start here. Again, I said Oakland's coming up. 18 games left in the season against them. They have not played them once yet, so that'll be interesting. I'm giving them a B for a solid start this year. Maybe not as hot as you would like, but they're chasing some leaders who have had some really easy matchups that they've just not benefited from. So, staying out in California, we're going to Oakland to talk about the Oakland Ballers. They're 18-9. They're a game back in the division. They split a 6-game set with Ogden to start the year, and then they started rolling. They won 4 of 6 against Grand Junction, took 5 of 6 from Glacier. They dropped 2 of 3 in Missoula, bounced back with a 3-game sweep of Ogden, and then they've won their first 2 of the week against Glacier before losing last night. Similar setup to the Yuba Sutter team, with average-ish offensive numbers and strong pitching. However, Oakland's pitching appears to be significantly better than the High Wheelers so far. I think there's just sort of there's no A1, A2, or 1A, 1B type thing. It's Oakland 1, Yuba 2, and then the league from there is what I mean to say. The rotation of Zach St. Pierre, Reed Butts, Dylan Matsuoka, and Luke Short are all better than league average, which is huge. The bullpen of Connor Sullivan, Carson Lambert, Connor Richardson, and Brody Egglite are like the 3 big relief options they got going for the team. Caleb Franzen might be up there too, but things haven't really translated into results for him quite yet. Keep an eye there. And then James Collier, he's another interesting one I've seen. I've liked him in a couple outings I saw. Lineup-wise, Davis Druyak, Christian Alamanza, they're legit power threats. They headline a lineup that could use some more consistency, if I'm honest. Guys like Tremaine Cobb, Daniel Harris, Lou Helmig, Cam Buford. Yeah, those are the 4 in my mind. They're likely sources for that consistency if things go well from here. So look for them to build around that grouping. This is about what we expect from the Ballers, honestly. Going on a run to get up to the division lead. They were tied for the division lead going into last night with 12 games to play still against Rocky Mountain, who they're battling with. It's an interesting spot to be in. The second half is a bit softer, but has a lot of Yuba Sutter matchups, as I said, all 18 of them. So it's going to be very interesting, not only how that looks head-to-head, but how it develops as they get used to each other. Can they keep some surprises in the bag, if you will? Giving them an A-. Good start for Oakland. Let's talk Idaho Falls. 17-9 start to the year. Game and a half back in the division. That's only a game out of the playoffs, by the way, because the second-place team is a half game back. So you need to be in the top 2 in the first half. So if you're a game and a half out, just do the math. Minus a half game on every other game back, I said previously. You can go back. I believe it. How'd they get here? They won 5 of 6 against Boise. That'll work to start things off. Took 4 of 6 against Billings. Won all 5 they played against Grand Junction, that funky series I mentioned earlier with a rain out in the middle. They split 6 games in a home-and-home against Boise, and now they lost their first 3 against Ogden, so they've dropped 4 in a row. The team is scoring a ton of runs, over a run per game more than anyone else in the league. The team's slashing 379, 457, 585. Crazy numbers. The best in the league in all 3 categories, in a league that is really strong offensively. The pitching isn't terrific, but it's keeping them at a point where they're outscoring opponents by nearly 3 runs per game. That plays. The pitching, as I said, holding their own, but they've struggled at times in a way that even the offense can't bail out some of these games. So they're going to need to improve that. They're going to need to tighten that thing up. They're going to need to miss some barrels before it's too late to salvage a playoff run, because they could. There's some games that get out of hand, man. When they can't get some strikeouts when they need to, it's getting rough. That rotation has Gary Grosjean, Connor Harrison, Garrett Van Deventer. They're all solid starters. In the bullpen, Ricky Tibbett was finding a lot of success before recently hitting the IL. That sucks. Steven Ororica, he could see improved results as the season goes on, and Rob Hughes is interesting. The bullpen definitely lacks high-leverage arms. That's part of the problem here. Lineup-wise, again, a lot of weapons here. Spencer, Rich, and Simon Bombart have been providing pop at the heart of the lineup. Ben Rosengard is hitting nearly 520 games. Garrett Ostrander, Chase Hansen, Tyler Wyatt, Anthony Mata, along with Spencer Rich, all hitting above 400. That's wild. The team's really good. The team could be great if they make the most of some of the opportunities they have against lesser opponents, if they can bolster this pitching staff. But right now, considering what was expected of them, the early results, it's an A-, but I would like to see some growth in the second quarter if they want to keep that grade up. That's one where, like, a little bit of growth, they might stay at an A-, honestly. But this is more based on just what the expectations were for them and how much they've sort of overperformed it. I didn't think they'd be bad, just not, whatever the record is right now, 17-9. Missoula Paddleheads, we're getting down to the home stretch here. They're 19-8. They lead the division as of last night. They won 4 of 6 in Billings to start the year. They split 6 with Glacier. They swept a 6-gamer in Great Falls. Then they proceeded to win 2 out of 3 against Oakland in Great Falls, and then the first 2 of 3. I don't know if they play them this weekend as well, but they took 2 out of 3 from Billings this week. The power is certainly there on this team. As a team, they're leading the league that is like full of explosive offenses by 5 home runs as a team. By most metrics, it's a top 3 offense in the league. The fun thing is that Missoula also pairs that offense with a top 3 pitching staff. They're getting it done. The pitching staff is walking guys, but the trade-off is that there are some dudes in this rotation and bullpen that are nasty. They are leading the league in strikeouts. They're doing a solid job missing bats. It's working. Matthew Sox is getting after it in the rotation so far, dropping an ERA around 2, a whip barely above 1. Dawson Day is leading the league in strikeouts. Fun. Nick Park, Brendan Beard, even Ryan Wentz have made done enough to make this a pretty complete rotation. I'd say Ryan Wentz is sort of the straggler with that, but it's working with the other 4. He'd be a problem if there was if their 4th guy wasn't getting it done the way he is. So, semantics. In the bullpen, Andrew Armstrong's caught my eye. His ERA is a 6.23, but that's a 3.78 ERA without 1 blowout outing against Great Falls he had. Zach Lampton's impressive so far, 27 Ks in 15 innings when I wrote this down at least. Reese Fields is showing some signs of being a future high-leverage guy, so keep an eye on that in the bullpen. You know how Missoula can develop a guy and make him a problem for you. Looking back to the lineup, Roberto Pena is having an unreal season. 15 home runs. Adam Fogel, 11 home runs of his own. Colin Gordon, Mike Rosario, Colby Wilkerson rounding out a fantastic lineup for this Missoula team. As always, the Paddleheads are great. Is this the year they get another trophy? We'll see. Difficult. The competition at the top this year I think is better than it has been. I'm not giving it an A+. That's kind of because Missoula's a victim of their own expectations on that front. And to be fair, they're just 11-7 against teams that aren't Great Falls. I'd love to see them do a little more there. Maybe by the end of this weekend, they will have. I'm giving them an A- for that. I want to see them beat some better teams, and the expectations were up there already. And that brings us to our last team, though I do have a bonus for you at the end of this thing. Let's talk about those Rocky Mountain Vibes. Put a s'more on. They're 18-8. They're a half game back in the division, which means, as I mentioned earlier, they are sitting in a playoff spot. They started off by winning 10 out of 11 against NOCO. They won 4 of 6 over Yuba Sutter. They split 6 in Billings. Then they dropped 2 to start the week against Grand Junction before winning 1 last night. Now, the numbers are certainly inflated by 11 games against NOCO. But let's celebrate the successes where we can. The team is scoring over 10 runs per game. They're slashing 370, 457, 537 as a team. The pitching staff is in the top half of the league despite walking people like crazy, which is wild when you play in Colorado Springs. That's a gamble. That's not sustainable. Unfortunately, this team is 7-7 when they're not playing NOCO. I guess 8-7 after last night. So they're 8-7. And they're being slightly outscored in these games. It might be about even now after last night's game, but the point stands. Craig Shearers, he is off to a hot start. Hot enough I wanted him on my fantasy lineup this week. Got beat on the waiver wire, I believe. That's a tough scene. Might just not been available. I don't know. I don't pay attention. More on that fantasy team later. Nick Powers, he has bounced back nicely after a couple of funky outings in the rotation, so that's good to see. From a bullpen standpoint, the bullpen is heavily relying on the successes of Gabriel White, Doug Olsees, and Hunter Bryan. Keep an eye on Trey Morrill, who has just struggled in a handful of his 13 outings, but the rest of the time has been lights out. Interesting. Beyond that, there's not a lot of depth to that pen, so they're going to have to figure that one out. The lineup. I mean, the whole lineup has put up numbers, right? So I'll just shout out Sam Linscott, Garrett Kuber, Alex Adams, Gary Laura, as I'm doing a quick scroll. They've all been very impressive. Carter Booth is also hitting above 400. Kellum Clark was hitting above 500 before he hit the IL. Nasty. A week ago, this might have been an A+. Right now, I'm giving them an A for the first quarter. They should be happy with that. Better than expectations. Yes, a lot of it is riding off that NOCO long double series to start the year, but credit where it's due. It's an A, the best grade in the class for the first quarter for Rocky Mountain. Bonus team. I'm in a Pioneer League Fantasy League. Pioneer League Fantasy League. Yeah, that's how you say that. Crazy behavior. Shout out to Nick from Oakland, running the thing. Him and I, I'm doing the stats. It's a grind. Doesn't matter. By hand. Can't go to ESPN for this. Can't go to Yahoo for this. It's fun, though. I'll tell you that much. For my lineup, I drafted Jack O'Dowd, Will Butcher, Max Jung Goldberg, Carmine Lane, Daniel Harris, Grady Morgan, Alex Pimentel, Damian Stone, and Taylor Darden. On the pitching side, I grabbed Brandon McPherson, Logan Mercado, Dylan Matsuoka, Brett Wozniak, Ricky Tibbett, Luke Copper, and Riley Egloff. So before week 1, I was already making moves. I had things to do. Grady Morgan hit the IL, so I grabbed Jacob Shanks for my outfield. Then I grabbed Brian Perez to replace Logan Mercado, who already had his contract purchased and I wasn't paying attention. That is on your boy. But we adapt. We overcome. Week 1, I got cleaned out, which is an ego check, I'm going to be honest with you. That one hurt. Each stat category of the 14 stats, we have 7 stat categories for offense, 7 for pitching. Each counts as a win or a loss or a draw, I guess would be the case. My offense looked great week 1, but the pitching struggled. Brandon McPherson got signed before he could make a start. Tough scene. Good for you, my guy, but tough scene. So I won 4 out of the 7 offensive categories. I won home runs, extra base hits, runs, RBI. But I lost all 5 pitching categories that I didn't tie. I tied quality starts and saves. So I ended up 4-8-2 in week 1. Oof. More moves. Had to make more moves. Replaced Brandon McPherson, obviously. Got Graham Edward to fill that hole. Phrasing. I had to drop Daniel Harris for a 4-20 week. Can't have that around. I moved Taylor Darden from utility to shortstop. Added Christian Castaneda. Big pickup. Week 2, boom. The boys go 12-1-1. Oh, cooking. Only category loss was stolen bases, and we tied saves again. We're so back. Never satisfied. More moves this week. We're grinders out here. Ricky Tibbett, he went on the IL, so I grabbed Christian Womble, my guy. I will bet on the California kids for a while. Get me down to sea level for my pitching, all right? Additionally, Damian Stone was struggling. Lost some playing time. I think he ended up on the IL, so I had to let him go. I picked up Evan Berkey. Berkey is going to the utility spot, and Castaneda is now in my outfield. Right now, the team is 16-9-3, third place, narrowly in the 4-team playoff picture with 10 weeks left, so lots to go. I'm taking on the second place team this week, who is very good. Just obliterated Nick last week. Not Nick from Indy Ball Report. Nick from Oakland, the guy who works for a team in the league and is running the league. Crushed him. So that's not a great sign. Could be a rough week. So we'll see. My team, right now, I'm giving them an A. Room to grow, improving consistently. The boys are hot in the streets, so an A for my team. And we'll go back through right now. An A for Rocky Mountain, an A- for Missoula, an A- for Idaho Falls. Gave an A- to Oakland. Got a lot of A-minuses. Didn't even catch that at first. A B for the Yuba Sutter High Wheelers, a B- for the Boise Hawks. C+ went to Ogden, a C for the Billings Mustangs, a C- for the Grand Junction Jackalopes, as well as the Glacier Range Riders, a D- to the NOCO Owls, though I'll give an F to the organization. They know what they've done. And an F to the Great Falls Voyagers, organizationally and as a team. Hate to say. That's it. Those are the report cards. Do you agree? Do you not? Let me know. It's been fun. Beautiful day. Hope the audio is not terrible. Sorry if it is. A little late to apologize.